Kevin Sieple. I'm the President and Dean of Ave Maria School of Law, and I have the pleasure of being here today with Edward V. Staros, who is the Vice President and Managing Director of the Ritz-Carlton Resorts in Naples, Florida. Ed, I want to start off by just saying thank you. Thank you for being on our Board of Governors. I really appreciate especially your business acumen and the customer service approach that you bring to our school. I think it probably is natural for you after being many years at the top of Ritz-Carlton Resorts, but I thank you for being on our Board of Governors.
It's my pleasure. When I was asked by both Tom Garlick and Dick Class if there was an opportunity to join, I didn't think there'd be a chance for me to be on the board, but I thought, wow, that would be wonderful. It's part of my philanthropic give back to the community.
I also want to say thank you for the video project, not just the filming that we're doing here today, but actually our entire project that we're doing with veterans, because we started it after you made a comment to me at one of our Board of Governors meetings, and so thank you for suggesting the project to me.
I think it's the greatest project you've done, and really, and I'm a big, big believer of veterans, in particular the MIAs that never made it back or lost in action. So forth. Having grown up in Pensacola, Florida, which is a huge naval air station, I have a lot of friends that have been in the military, have a lot of friends that I've lost, and I just have a deep portion of my heart and soul in their tribute.
Lastly, I want to say thank you for all the things you do for the community. In fact, last night I was at an event where you were actually inducted into the Hall of Fame of the Junior Achievement Organization. So thank you for all you do for the community.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I enjoy it so very much. My whole style of management or leadership is through mentoring, and Junior Achievement is a mentoring organization and so forth. So it was really kind of neat to be chosen for that honor, it not being a hospitality award, but being a community award. It was really great.
I know you're a family man, been married 34 years, and you have a son and daughter.
I do. My son is 31 years old. He lives on the east coast of Florida. He's doing well. He's got a very unusual job. It would take a half hour to explain it, so I'm not going to, so forth. My daughter is a special needs child and really an angel that God gave us, Christina, as an angel from heaven. She's really beautiful.
And I know you're a man of faith and deep moral character.
Thank you. I try to be. I try my very best to live your moral compass every day of your life. And I tell my young talent in my business, in the hospitality business, that's the thing that will keep you on track during what sometimes is an endless climb up the ladder as they're trying to create their future.
Well, it's an honor that our school is associated with you. And really, I think all the things you represent and embody is what we want our students to achieve and what we're trying to cultivate in them each and every year.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I know recently you made a tribute to Lieutenant Joseph Gales Greenleaf,
yes,
who was a naval aviator, a fighter pilot.
Fighter pilot, F4.
Now missing in action,
yes,
as he was on a bombing mission over the demilitarized zone and his plane was shot down.
That is correct.
Now it's interesting how you know of Lieutenant Greenleaf.
Well, it is, because quite frankly, I've never met him. He was the gentleman that married Marcia, my best friend, in high school. Now, Marcia went off to college. I think it was William and Mary. She was invited to so many colleges, I quite frankly can't remember which one she accepted. I went to Florida State University, took the hospitality classes there. We kept in touch, and she wrote me about how she met this wonderful man and so forth, and I wrote her back and told her how thrilled I was for her, because I was light years away from marriage at that particular time in my life, and anything Marcia wanted, I wanted her to have, and so forth. So she fell in love with Joseph Greenleaf. He was a military man. He was a pilot, F4 pilot. He was shot down in Cam Lo Village, about 1 mile south of the village in South Vietnam, and he was never found, but it was assumed that he died on impact because other fighter pilots saw the strike and watched the F4 go down. There was no parachute involved, and with a massive crash.
Now, you mentioned that you grew up in Pensacola, Florida, which, as you stated, is the home of the Naval Air Base. Did you find that most of the people you were associated with when you were growing up were from military families?
Oh, yes. And yes, in fact, almost everyone. I went to elementary school. Pensacola Naval Air Station is in a little community called Warrington, which is just a suburb of Pensacola. We lived, when you going over the bridge, the bayou and the bridge that connects the Naval Air Station to the mainland, I was on the first street on the right, 100 yards away. And so we were walking distance to the base. And everybody in that neighborhood was military. And everybody that I went to school with was military, because the school was the first school off base, including all the kids that lived on base went to that school. So I went to Warrington Elementary School, and then Warrington Middle School, and then Pensacola High School. So I would say 75 to 80% of my friends were military, and so forth.
And when you were growing up, this is the period of time of the Vietnam War and
Yes,
the Vietnam draft.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's not like it is today. You know, that was a mandatory draft for those who were not of special needs, and it got to the point where there was, because quite frankly, the Vietnam War wasn't a very well embraced war. Even many of the military people who I grew up with did not care for the reasons why we were in Vietnam, and so forth. So at any rate, I grew up there, and they had to put a mandatory lottery system. And the way it worked, it was kind of like a giant lotto ball, and they had the numbers from the dates of every day of the year, all 365 of them. And this was the biggest TV show, I think, ratings-wise, ever in that time, because everybody watched it, even if it wasn't affecting you personally, because it was affecting your next door neighbor or your best friend. And so they'd pull the numbers out one at a time, and they would call the number out, and the first number pulled was all the people born on that day that were eligible for being drafted. And the second number was all those people. As soon as you finished every single person with the first birthday, you go to the second birthday, and then the third birthday, and the fourth birthday. And the only way not to go is they had a deferment for anybody that was already in college and scoring a C average. You had to have a C average to maintain your deferment. That was an incentive to study. And so at any rate, my number, I believe, was 126, and the war was so large at the time. I believe the first year they were in the 210 birthdays. So I would have been drafted if at 126 would have been drafted. And then the second year it went up, I can't remember, but another 20 birthdays or so. And then the third year it went up again. So it was somewhere in the 240, 250 birthdays. And then the fourth year, although this has never been confirmed, it is believed that Nixon he was being reelected, and he wanted to lower the count because it was not a popular war, particularly with youth. And I think it went up to 77 or 78. So when I graduated, I had the opportunity, I was 1A for 1 year, and if the number went to your number, then you went. But it only went up to the 70s, so my number being in the mid-120s, I never was drafted. And I got into the hospitality business, went to Florida State University and went to the hospitality business and began my career in hospitality.
Now, after all these years, do you still keep up with Marcia?
I don't. I have seen her since Joseph's death. He died in April 14th, 1972. I graduated from school in June of '68, high school. And she came back to Pensacola, I would say late June or early July of 1968 to mourn with her mother, mourn the death of Joseph. And so her mother and I were great friends as well and so forth. So she called me and she said, "Marcia's coming to town. We'd love for you to come over and have dinner," and so forth. So we saw each other for 2 or 3 days before I went to the British Isles on an exchange student program in the hospitality business. That was the last time I saw her.
How would you like Lieutenant Greenleaf to be remembered?
I would like he and all people like him, who was a dedicated serviceman, to be honored, particularly those who died for our freedom and or died and never were found, like Joseph, missing in action. But all veterans should be honored for the work they do to keep this country the wonderful country that we have. So I'm just dedicated to those, though, who have died and or missing in action. And I think it's the greatest honor you can give is to never forget. Truly, that is never forget the people who fought for us. And it's an honorable thing to do, and everybody should honor and anybody they know that has lived through and or have passed during their military obligation.
I'm not sure we can top that, but do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I just this you know, I do a lot of philanthropic work, and I enjoy being on your board very, very much. I enjoy the work I do for other organizations, particularly kids with special needs, disadvantaged children, and children at risk. But there's something about growing up in Pensacola, Florida, and knowing that the USS Lexington was the aircraft carrier where thousands of pilots learned how to land on an aircraft carrier. And I used to go to the base all the time. The Blue Angels were based out of there as well. Used to go to the base all the time just to watch the synchronization of the Blue Angels. And I was even invited out, not on the USS Lexington, but the Eisenhower, to witness a military drill later in life. This wasn't at this time when I was living in Pensacola, but I went on the USS Eisenhower with Admiral Delaney, and I witnessed it was a joy to be there, 4 days of operations, to see these gentlemen fly these planes at such speed and be caught on the deck. Even had the pleasure of landing on the deck myself and taking off on the deck myself. And so,
hopefully you had a pilot with you.
yes, I did. Admiral Delaney was the pilot. So, you know, but once you grow up in Pensacola, it's part of your soul. The obligation of how people sacrifice their families and their lives for the good of the whole and the good of our country. So God bless them all.
Well, thank you, Ed.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.